I know nobody liked her. She was a very unpleasant woman. Even after winning all that money on the lottery, all those millions, not a friend saw a penny of it. Well, she didn't have very many friends. But to be murdered, well, that's not very nice, is it? Well, it couldn't be the butler, it couldn't be the maid, it couldn't be the gardener or the chauffeur. I mean, this is 2020 and in lockdown. She did have a cleaner that came in every other week and a chap who helped with the garden. And it didn't help that the police inspector that was given the case was a great fan of Agatha Christie's Poirot and prided himself that he could solve the murder by the first commercial break. So, Inspector Wright, nicknamed Never Right at the police station, was convinced the husband did it. Poor old Stan. Well, he wasn't poor, though I don't think he saw much of it. The money, I think. But he wasn't all that old. And he couldn't help being called Stanley, could he? Though I have heard it's getting quite fashionable now. And I do believe she led him a merry dance. She drank, you know. Inspector Wright didn't hold with this innocent until proved guilty. The husband did it, and that was that. There was no butler who had been given up for adoption at birth and had murdered her in revenge, and the money, of course. There was no maid who was planning to steal her priceless pearls. There was no chauffeur who had persuaded her that he was in love with her so he could get a slice of the money in her will and the Rolls Royce. There was no lunatic gardener who had buried her Russian maid under the flower beds. Well, it had to be the husband. He had a concrete case. The vase was the murder weapon, and Stanley's fingerprints were all over it. He had a motive. He would have got all the money. Stan said that he had an alibi, that he had been shopping in Tesco's that day. But this neighbour's wife, she said she had seen him there that day. But this neighbour's wife said that that could not have been that day because she had seen her in her garden all afternoon. They checked his bank account, and as most people were paying by card because of the virus, no money was paid out to Tesco that day from his account. Well, he was found guilty. But the judge said that he did not consider him a threat to society, and he was sent to an open prison. I do believe he was quite happy there. Well, no nagging wife. And he could sit and watch football all day long on the telly. The food was okay, and reasonably pleasant company. Inspector Wright was over the moon. But Stan's defence lawyer was not happy. She was convinced it was a gross miscarriage of justice. It was not murder. It was just an unfortunate and very tragic accident, and was pushing for a retrial. She was convinced her client was innocent, so she began digging. All the evidence she dug up, she presented to the court, and eventually a retrial was granted. The points were that he'd been out the day before to a cash point when he went out to buy the roses for his wife's birthday, thereby paying cash when he went for the shopping. It was proved that she had a serious drinking problem, gin. The post-mortem examination results strangely had not been presented at the first court case proved that she had been drinking quite heavily. Cirrhosis of the liver was well advanced. Stan's defense lawyer wanted to prove to the court that in her drunken state she had stumbled and grabbed hold of the tablecloth, thereby bringing the heavy vase down on top of her and crushed her skull. Also, his fingerprints would have been all over the vase. He bought the roses, he put them in the vase and put them on the table as a surprise for his wife. The next door neighbour's wife now said that she wasn't all that sure that it was that neighbour that she saw in her garden that day. It was just an accident. There was no real proof, no real evidence. Well, he was acquitted. Inspector Wright was gutted. I do believe that not long after that he was pensioned off. Shame. A few days ago, I met the next door neighbour's wife on the other side. She said that he never came home. The house is empty and up for sale. Well, who'd want to buy it? She'd heard from a very reliable source that is now living in Barbados with the next door neighbour's wife. Yes, the one that gave him the alibi. Apparently, they've been having an affair for years. Makes you think, doesn't it?